Let's stop the music. All right. All right. My people, welcome back to U&I Talk Show. Whew, we are live today on Saturday, October 11th. I'm very happy to be back. Ooh, let's see if anybody is around in the comments, in the chat. Please leave me a message. Tell me that you can see me, that you can hear me properly. And then, yeah, so we're gonna start into English first, and then we're gonna talk about a topic that we have talked about in the past, but we have not talked about it in a minute. So we are coming back to this topic. Why are we coming back to this topic? Because one of the reasons was that Elon Musk posted about it. Can you imagine? About the Rudakubana situation in the UK. And then there has been some evolution in the UK, the whole mess about digital ID. So I'm going to tell you the connection to that. According to my own observation, analysis, and things that I have been hearing. So welcome back. It's open mic. If anybody wants to come into the show and express anything, something, whatever you want, please come. I posted the link in the comments of where you could join if you want to join. And then, yeah, so everybody's welcome. We're going to start in English and then we're going to move into French and KinyaRwanda. Thank you, my people. So, my people, welcome back to U&I Talk Show. We haven't spoken about Rudakubana in a minute because he went to jail and the kind of story kind of went down a bit. But ever since that happened, there has been a lot of evolution. And so let's talk about that. First of all, remember how we spoke about these things that some people will call conspiracy theories, but anyways, they have been becoming true, about how the whole thing was linked to what appears to be a voluntary that the British government or the governments in the West may voluntarily have betrayed their own citizens, their own national, and they let in people knowing that they are criminals, that they have criminal records, and they want them to commit crimes, and then they will cause chaos in the UK, and then through the chaos that they cause, they will give the government an excuse to bring in a dictatorship, you know, which is usually how the same kind of tactics that they use in Africa in order to manipulate people into government change and to manipulate people into accepting the kind of policies that they would never otherwise accept. So the idea that they need to shock their own societies and traumatize their own societies and then bring in dictatorship, claiming that it will be to resolve that, but not really resolving the issue. It's really to enslave the nationals, the British people who were free, the Canadian people who were free, the American people who were free. Pretty much what was seen as the free people out here are now also getting colonized and enslaved, like slavery coming to the UK, coming to Canada and the USA, if of course the people do not resist. So remember, we talked about how the father of the Southport killer, Rudakubana, was actually in the killing machines army in the Kagamistan in Rwanda, and that it was very suspicious how he was allowed to come to the UK, and that allegedly he may have been in the UK as a spy, and his cover was a karate man, but he used to be a military man, and the Kagamistan dictatorship does not allow military men to just go. They let them go on further missions. So now what has been posted by Elon Musk, and the reason that brought me back to the story is a journalist called David Atherton, and he posted about how. So let's go to the original story that Elon Musk reposted. He posted about how the Southport inquiry heard that AXEL RUDAKUBANA had brought a knife to school 10 times. 10 times. You know, remember, our purpose today is to find out why he was allowed to kill. And he was clearly allowed to kill because he was doing things and allowed to get away with it, such as what this inquiry has found out. And it's kind of a little bit similar to in the US. Remember the young man who killed that young little girl from Europe, and this man had been a criminal and allowed to go out in the system multiple times, and then he eventually killed somebody. So this guy been monitored but allowed to continue so that he may eventually cause chaos. The purpose of the chaos to shock and traumatize the British people. And if any of them revolt, resist, then the system, their government turns against them, calls them the criminals, sends them to jail for free speech, for even questioning, when they have been actually monitoring the criminals for a while, but they allow them to commit the crimes that they commit on purpose. The same way that they will allow chaos to come to your country by allowing illegal immigration when they can easily control it, but they allow it, or unvetted immigration, but they allow it precisely to cause the chaos. And then what is the solution that they have been proposing lately? The digital ID. And this is where we will get the danger of the digital ID from the perspective of someone who has lived the whole. Rudakubana is from Rwanda. His father was Rwandan army, the whole genocide madness, the role of the ID in the genocide. And I personally suspect that there could be a genocide brought upon people in these countries. And one of the tools that they will use, for example, for genocide against white people in the UK, would be to bring them an ID. And what does the ID do? The same way that the ID helped during the genocide in Rwanda in order to identify people and kill them, the same way that this new ID can be programmed, and you, the person who holds the ID, you don't even know what has been programmed on the ID. But one day you get stopped, and the person who's checking the ID, they know what to read from the ID, and then they tell you, go left. And then the other person who's getting checked, go right. And then it just so happens that the person that they're telling to go left is getting killed. For what? They don't even know. It's something that is written on their ID. The ID in Rwanda, and it was just a paper ID, but which would identify people Hutus, Tutsis, Twa, facilitated and helped the genocide. And this is a paper ID where you present it, and if it says one thing, you die. If it says something else, maybe you get to live. If the paper ID could do such damage in Rwanda, what is the digital ID going to do as damage in the UK and everywhere else that they are trying to install it? So I'm warning people, and then it's up to you guys to take the warning or to throw it in the garbage or to take it as conspiracy theories. But having lived through it and never wishing anybody to live through that kind of madness ever again, it's my duty and my responsibility to warn people when I see it coming. And the crazy part is that people expect that kind of madness to happen, maybe where it happens to us in Africa. The crazy part is when you see it being brought to the UK, being brought to Canada, being brought to the USA, and you're like, whoa. So they are also trying to genocide their own people, eh? And their politicians, their own politicians, like Starmer, have actually betrayed their own people. Exactly like African politicians who sell out their own nation to some international people that we don't even know. And then they destroy their own people. The issue is that who's going to save the Western people from themselves? Because usually you hear when other countries out there, when politicians are destroying their own people, you hear, oh, we must save them. The horrible leader is killing their own people. So what if the UK, the leaders, are killing their own people and they're allowing for their own people to be killed? Like, who comes to their rescue, right? Madness. So the Southport inquiry heard the AXEL RUDAKUBANA had brought a knife to school 10 times. Search for school shootings in America, and on Google search for images of picture of severed head. Police Sergeant Carmen Thompson, then at Prevent, and P.S. Thompson decided Rudakubana did not meet the threshold for a channel referral to channel. It's the government program which hopes to help vulnerable to be drawn into terrorism. Wow. Wow. Crazy, right? Crazy, crazy. So this is the original article. You can go check it out. He was sentenced to go to jail for 52 years for murdering 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift themed class in Southport in July last year. It is crazy. A police sergeant has told an inquiry that she would not have closed the Southport killer's first referral to the government's anti-terror program if she had seen his internet search history. Oh, really, eh? So what are they investigating? Wow. So, what if, conspiracy theory, they actually see it, but they don't do anything about it, and they don't want to do anything about it precisely because they want the horror to happen, and then they will punish the people who denounce the horrors and then they will take advantage of the horror that they allowed to happen and then enslave their own people by bringing in the new solution that they found, which solves no problem, but which enslaves their own people instead. Now, the crazy part that I wanted to talk about, what was crazy is when this was actually posted by Elon Musk, and then recently Elon Musk had been talking. Remember when he was talking about genocide against white people in South Africa, you know? And then as I've been seeing this and following this story and following everything that's been happening in the UK, I think he's looking in the wrong direction if he's worried about genocide against white people. He should actually be looking to the UK, to Canada, to the USA with this new idea of enslaving everyone and putting everyone under digital ID. This may be the what causes the genocide, and it's actually in the West, not in South Africa. Because he was talking about that happening in South Africa, but it's actually not in South Africa. It is in the West that they should be worried about this idea of genocide against white people.
You've been talking about this for a very long time, as have I, at least 5 years. There was a terrible inevitability about it, but I always hoped this day would not come, actually. What do you say on a day like this, on an eve like this, when Starmer's going to introduce this tomorrow?
I honestly think we've got them, Bev. I feel uncharacteristically optimistic about it. I've been, desperately furious about the concept of a digital ID card for a long time. And I've been anxious about the possibility of somebody actually daring to bring one forward. But here it is. And I genuinely think that there's enough awareness, more than enough awareness out there in the general population. I sense that there's going to be mass refusal, mass non-compliance. I think this government has rolled the dice, with instructions from on high. I believe the likes of Keir Starmer and his ilk are just factotums. They've had to roll the dice on this, and it's going to be a disaster for them, and will probably conceivably be what brings them down.
Just explain to the absolute layman, because these conversations are going to have to take place now, why this is problematic. And if you can, Neil, do it like in terms of the real practicalities rather than the ideology of it.
It's the way in which it brings everything together. Everything together, all of the information about us, everything from health, everything about your finances, anything that you can think of that's out there in the digital sphere is brought together by this kind of platform. And everything can be used in real time to make judgments about you, about what you propose to do. It can reference things that you've said in the past, done in the past. It can use anything at all that's on your record. It can relate to protests maybe that you've attended, to things that you've said, to posts that you've made on social media, to your financial status. And in real time, decisions can be made about whether or not you get permission to do whatever it is that you want to do next. Put fuel in your car, buy a plane ticket, buy a steak in a supermarket, buy a bottle of wine, whatever it is that you want to do, a decision can be made in advance. Because what is happening here with digital ID is effectively you are being replaced with an avatar of yourself. If you imagine one of those little pieces that you move about on a Monopoly board that sort of represents you on the board, well, they have you in that digital ID, and they can decide whether or not you get to move on the board. And your hands are effectively tied behind your back. Anybody that submits to this, anybody that accepts a digital ID is slapping handcuffs around their own wrists. It's the end of freedom. It's the end of choice. It's the worst possible decision that any free-living, freedom-loving person could possibly make. But as I say, I was pessimistic about it for a while. I'm not anymore. We've got them on this. We have them surrounded. Their arguments don't stack up. None of the reasons that they've put forward for doing this make any kind of sense. The very idea that this is going to tackle the people arriving by boats on the shores of the British Isles is absolute nonsense. It was never supposed to do that. The appetite, the desire to bring forward the digital ID was there years ago. And it was understood by the people that wanted to bring it forward that the British people would not accept it. So problems had to be fomented to make people desperate to accept this as a solution. Hence the opening up of the borders and the mass immigration onto these shores that has stoked division, has stoked fear, and the hope has been that people would accept the digital ID as this solution to the problem. But it's entirely bogus. Yeah. All people have to do is not comply, and this thing falls flat on its face. And I am convinced that that is what's going to happen.
My people. So, they have created the problem. They knew the problem, but they allowed it to unfold precisely so that they can bring in all the wrong solution. This Rudakubana's case, I personally suspect that is part of this whole idea of wanting to bring back slavery to the UK and manipulating the people so that they may fall into this trap. So, British people and the rest of the people out here in the Western world, you are now the targets for enslavement, and you have to wake up and resist, or you will become slaves and your children will become slaves, and it will take you a very long time to be free again. Because once you lose your slavery, once you lose your freedom, you know, to rebuild it back, it takes major effort and a very long time. So the worry here about the genocide against white people, as this guy was saying, explaining how the digital ID, anytime somebody is going to make judgments about you and prevent you to exist, as I was saying, the ID, just a simple card ID, facilitated a genocide in Rwanda. And they would simply pick up the ID card and look, and then if it says so and so in one little box, then you have to die. That's a paper card. Now imagine a digital ID card that contains so much more information, and that you never know which of that information is going to be used against you at any given time, and then you die. So, if people such as Elon Musk were worried about genocide against white people, and remember this whole story came from me reposting the thing that Elon Musk had actually posted, being, you know, surprised, shocked that this guy was known to authorities, and yet they allowed him to continue, live free, until he killed people and caused chaos, killed children. His own family, his own father is allegedly a former child soldier of the criminal dictatorship of the Kagamistan, who was sent to the UK, allegedly, to do some undercover work for the criminal dictatorship. The kid is part of a bigger network of criminals tied to the criminal dictatorship of the Kagamistan in Rwanda. Tony Blair was one of the top advisors of the Kagamistan in Rwanda. Tony Blair is directly connected to this idea of bringing slavery back through the digital ID thing. So this whole thing is part of a bigger thing. And if people are actually worried about genocide against white people, I suggest they look into this as well. And the way to avoid the catastrophe, the tragedy that is waiting to happen if people become slaves through the digital prison, the way to avoid being genocided is to resist and to say no. I'm going to end by saying that I really admire the UK's fight for freedom for generations, you know, and their kings, their monarchs used to be horrible tyrants, and the people always rose up to fight against tyranny all the way until they established a system that actually puts even the monarchy under the law. So they're still fighting for their freedom. So British people, I wish you all the best. You have to survive, you have to win, because this madness is also going to be brought into Canada and the USA and the rest of the world. So you are on the forefront, you have to win, because you'll be winning for yourself and for the rest of the world which wants to be free. And when the British people actually fought against their own monarchy, in order to bring it under the law itself and in order to be free, because they also used to be serfs and they used to be enslaved by their own leadership class. How did they react when they saw that they were losing power? They actually went and imported in mercenaries to come and help the leadership of that time to continue to fight against the freedom lovers and to try and perpetuate the system that was enslaving people. So it's not new that the leadership in the UK imports in mercenaries, imports in people that will come to help the leadership oppress their own people and try to keep their own people enslaved. And it was only through resistance, once again, that the Magna Carta was able to be put in practice. Otherwise, the king was actually fighting against it, even though he had signed it and agreed to it. When it came time to respect it and respect people's freedom, he actually wanted to trash it. So the oppressors, the enslavers, they never want to give you your freedom just like that. You have to resist and you have to take your freedom and preserve your freedom. Otherwise, you become a slave. All right, my people. So I'm going to move into French and comment about the Congolese situation. And then move into KinyaRwanda as well. If anybody knows Elon Musk, tell him that if he's worried about genocide against white people, start in the UK. Start in the UK. Yep. So that's it for this week in English. Let's move into French. If you have any questions, let me know. Let me know. If you want to be on the show, let me know. All right, my UK people, I'm rooting for you. Stay free. Resist the enslavers and the colonizers. It's like the UK, somebody's trying to colonize the UK and enslave the UK. How crazy, eh? Do they know who they're trying to colonize and enslave? How crazy. But I never thought that I would live actually to see somebody trying to colonize and enslave the UK. It's kind of crazy madness. Like, whoa. So even the UK can be enslaved and colonized. Okay, it's actually happened before. Oh, it will happen again if they don't resist. It's crazy. And if the UK falls, well, Canada has fallen, the USA has fallen, And then, of course, they will expand slavery, colonization, and tyranny to the rest of the world. This is where we're at. So, all the best. I'm rooting for you. And I'm exercising my freedom of speech while I still can in Canada to tell you this. I'm taking risks to tell you this. And I'm exercising my divine rights. My new book, Imana, Know Thy Divine Rights. Thank you to all the people who have been reading it. Please leave me comments, leave me reviews on Amazon. I need them reviews, man. I need those reviews on Amazon, and keep reading. And it's about know thy divine rights. We have the divine right to be free. Know thy divine rights so you cannot be enslaved. All the freedom lovers, I wrote my book for all the freedom lovers in order to know how to stay strong, spiritually strong, and how to preserve your freedom, how to resist, so that we're not going to be enslaved ever, ever, ever again. Nobody's bringing slavery back. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So, know thy divine rights so you can remain free always. All right? Thank you very much. Merci la famille. On bouge en français. Et cette semaine, je vais commenter un tout petit peu alors sur ce qui se passe, l'actualité entre le Congo et le Rwanda. On a vu les deux présidents, le président congolais, donc Tshisekedi, et le président du Kagamistan au Rwanda, donc le Kagamistan lui-même, en Europe, s'il vous plaît. Et ils ont échangé des tirs, bien sûr. Donc, on en parle un tout petit peu avant de bouger en KinyaRwanda. Merci d'être là, merci d'être avec nous, la famille. J'étais en train de parler de ce dossier-là que Elon Musk avait repost, le petit jeune Rwandais, là, la barbarie des Rwandais, là, jusqu'en Europe, jusqu'en Angleterre, où un enfant, ce petit Rwandais a tué 3 enfants. Et alors, je leur ai révélé toute l'histoire où le petit criminel, au fait, même son père faisait partie de l'armée de Killing Machine du Kagamistan. Et puis donc, il est suspect d'avoir été envoyé en Angleterre comme s'il travaille. Et puis donc, le petit criminel a été observé par les autorités, là, mais ils ne l'ont pas arrêté. Hein? 10 fois, il amène un couteau à l'école. Mais ils ne l'ont pas arrêté. Donc, j'étais en train de leur parler des histoires que les autres vont appeler des conspiracy theories pour leur dire que leurs pouvoirs font exprès pour amener la dictature dans leur pays. Donc, il y a comme une volonté d'amener la dictature dans les pays, même chez les pays les plus libres. Comme chez nous, c'est déjà la dictature criminelle. Donc, s'il y a encore des pays libres ici dehors, il y a des gens qui vont encore essayer de les mettre aussi sous la dictature. Donc, je disais aussi à Elon Musk que s'il est préoccupé par génocide contre les Blancs, qu'il se préoccupe de la situation en Angleterre, parce que ça se passe en Angleterre, ça ne se passe pas en Afrique du Sud. Parce que ce qui se passe en Angleterre, là, c'est ça justement qui va conduire à ce génocide qui lui fait peur. Alors, on va parler, nous, de Tshisekedi contre Kagame en Europe.